Good morning and welcome to another episode of Virtual MOSI. So my name is Amber and today I want to talk to you a little bit about our spinal cord and the bones that protect it. So in science, when we want to understand very complex or difficult to attain theories and topics, we use what are called model systems. And so today we're going to show you a couple different models and how we can use those models to understand the natural phenomenons. So today I have in front of me some candy. So we have some hard candy rings, some gummy candy, and some string candy. And I'm going to use each of these to kind of describe some of the most important features of our spine and spinal cord. So to start, I'd like to see a little bit about what you might have already known about our spinal cord. So if anyone can please try and tell me in our comments, how many bones actually make up our backbone, also known as our spine? So if you know how many bones that is, or if you just want to take a guess and see if you're right, feel free to put it down into the comments, and we'll see later in the episode if you have the right answer. Also, if you have any other questions about the spine, feel free to put them down in our comments and we'll answer those as well. So let's start learning a little bit more about the actual spine. So our first piece of our model is going to be this string candy, and we're going to use it to represent our spinal cord. So our spinal cord is just the connection between our brains and the rest of our bodies, and it sends signals. So if you say, I want to pick this up, well, your brain has to tell your hands, I want to pick something up. And it's going to send that signal down our spinal cords through nerves that go all the way to our hands and our arms and all of those things. So that's what we're going to use this for. These hard candy we're going to use to make the bones of the spine. Those are also called our vertebrae. And they are just the bones that make up the actual spine, and they're going to protect our spinal cord because it's pretty sensitive and it does a really important job, and so we want to protect it with our bones. But when bones hit against one another, it can be very damaging. They can damage one another. So in between our bones are what are called intervertebral discs, and they're basically just softer. They're actually made of fibrocartilage, and they go in between our bones to protect it. So whenever you get up and you turn and flex your back, these little intervertebral discs will sit in between your vertebrae, and they're going to keep it from rubbing against one another, hitting against one another, and causing damage. So those are the main features of our backbone, and let's see if we can make a little model here. So I'm just going to take out some of this candy and show you how you can make this at home if you want to learn a little bit more about the spinal cord. So first have to take off all the plastic if you need that, or if you have that on yours. And we're just going to make a little bit of a model here. So you will put on a piece of bone, which is our hard candy, and then in between the bones, like I was saying, you're going to need a piece of our intervertebral disc, which is our gummy candy. And you can just put that on there, hard candy first, then a piece of the gummy candy. And if you keep going, you will have a simple spine. And this will work as a model so you can kind of see some of the ways in which we study our spine, because it would be pretty difficult to take our spines out of our bodies and study them directly. All right, so let's see what we can learn about our spine from our little model here. So like I said, this is our spinal cord, and you can see where the bone and the intervertebral discs are. You can't see your spinal cord anymore, and that's how it protects it. It creates this physical barrier so that it stays nice and safe. Also, because it's hard, if you were to get hit in the back in some way, you're less likely to cause damage. And our intervertebral discs allow flexibility. So as you move throughout your day, if it was just one single bone, think about your arm, for instance. That's one large bone here, or actually it's two large bones here, and another large bone here. Because they're longer, you have a lot less flexibility. You can only go up and down, things like this. But in your spine, you can do a lot more intricate movement. And so that's the importance of each of these individual bones and why we have so many in our spines. So that's that model. Feel free to make that at home, and if you do and you learn more about the spine, let us know. We'd love to see how you guys learn from that type of information from the models. So now that we've seen that kind of model, let's go ahead and look at the one we saw at the beginning of our video. So what I'm showing here is actually what a side view of our spine looks like. Now this is a little exaggerated so that I can show out some important features. But all I did to make this is I used some wooden beads, and in between them I have little colored beads. And those are smaller so that it can represent our little intervertebral discs. And the wood is going to be all of the bones. So what you can see in this model that you weren't able to see in the first model is that our spine is actually curved. And it's not as curved as this, but it does have these curves in it to allow for distribution of pressure. So when you're getting up or sitting down, that's going to cause pressure, and this spreads it out across the entire spine, something you couldn't see in that first model. And also in this model, you can see here we have our sacrum and our coccyx. Those are the final bones in our spine, and they are fused together. So they're bigger, like the sacrum is bigger on this model, and then it has smaller bones that make up the little coccyx because they're actually fused together at the end. So this is a different type of model. So when you're making models at home, you want to ask yourself, what can I learn from this? And how that may differ from a different type of model. So finally, we have one final model here. And I just made this one out of paper, and I put little magnets on the back and use this magnetic board. That way I can label all of my parts and kind of get a little bit more specific on identifying what we're seeing. So before we get started on this, we're going to go through our bones. Was anyone able to guess how many bones we have in our body?
A couple guesses. 26.
Okay. Just that one? All right. So 26 is not a bad guess, and that's because our spinal cord, or our spine, has all of these bones that go all the way into the sacrum and the coccyx. And the bones that are above that are regular vertebrae. There's 24 of those. And then the sacrum, you could call just one, and the coccyx, you could call another, and that could be 26. But the sacrum and the coccyx are actually made up of 9 bones. So the sacrum has 5, and the coccyx has 4. So if you add that to the 24 of the other bones in the body, or in the spine, you're actually going to have 33. So 26 is not a bad guess, but if you're actually counting the individual ones that are fused together in our sacrum and our coccyx, we're actually going to have 33 bones in our spine. So thank you for chiming in with that. So now we're going to go through what those bones are. So the top part of our spine is in our neck, and we call that our cervical vertebrae. So it's 7 bones right at the top of our spine that comes straight from our skull. And I'm just showing here, these are your top view. So if you're looking at it from above your head, that's what they look like. And if you're looking at them from the side, kind of like in this picture, this is what the side looks like with our curvature. That's what these are representing. So these are our cervical vertebrae, and they're in our neck, and there's 7 of them. And then in our chest area, we have our thoracic vertebrae, and that is this area, and they're going to be where our ribs come out of. So they're pretty important there, and there's 12 of them. And then right toward the lower back, we have our lumbar vertebrae, and that is what they look like from the top and from the side. And then just to give an indication of what our intervertebral discs look like, they're just round, almost oval-like shapes that have fibrous and cartilage in them, and they're almost not quite gummy, but they have a little bit more flexibility than a bone will have, and that's what gives us that protective in between the bones feature. And that's all the bones in our body. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them down in the comments. We'll be able to answer them at any point, so don't feel like after this video is posted you can't ask any more questions. That's all I have for you guys today, but if you want to learn a little bit more tomorrow, we're going to be talking about simple machines, and we look forward to seeing you. Keep discovering.